I would just go into my room, lock myself in there, and start cutting. That was my gateway. I like seeing the blood gushing through my arm, and it would hurt, but I thought to myself, this pain is like a relief that I feel inside my heart. So I would cut myself, and just seeing the blood would just remind me of how much pain I was going through.
At a young age, I started judging myself based on what I knew versus what other people knew. You know, how well they could read versus how I could read. And that took me into a whole different life in my life.
Into my teens, I started getting into trouble. When I was 15 was my first juvenile hall experience, and then from juvenile hall I went to the drug rehab, and then from there I was on house arrest.
This man taps me on the shoulder and puts this Bible in my face. I turned around and I said, "What?" And he put a Bible in my face and he told me, "The Lord told me to give this to you." It still gets me because that man had no business being at some kid's pizza parlor. He took a left when he should have kept on going straight.
I'm Teresa Campbell, and welcome to Transform. Join me as we explore the lives of two ordinary individuals who overcame extraordinary obstacles. Their stories will inspire you to fearlessly face any obstacle standing in your way. Have you ever been in an environment where nothing you did was good enough? Meet Pastor Rome. So, Pastor Rome Gilbert,
yes,
thank you so much for talking with us today. But before we start,
yeah.
I want to let you know I did send you a Facebook friend request and you didn't friend me back.
Oh.
well, let me just say, it was 20 minutes ago, so maybe that wasn't enough time. But I just wanted to throw that up out there. But I was still able to get into, your Facebook account. And I wasn't trolling. I was just looking through some things. And one of the things that I noticed is that you say, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a Jesus freak.
To the max.
So I want you to describe those roles for us as what they mean to you.
A husband. I knew I'd be one at 16. The Lord spoke very clearly to me. I know that might be foreign language to some, but he spoke very plainly to me at 16 years old that my wife presently would be my wife. And so that's strange when you're a 16-year-old boy because you're already having to think about, wow, if we're together forever, what is a husband doing? Wow. But as the Lord has continued to reveal it to me, he created me special. So he needed someone that could handle my kind of special. So that's why he chose my wife.
Okay.
Because she's the perfect balance to life. As far as being a father, to me, that's one of the most important roles as a man, me personally, could have, mainly because I didn't have a good father. Wasn't present, and I didn't really have a picture of what that should look like. Now, the Jesus freak, that one's a little, I guess you would say I grew into becoming a Jesus freak, because I used to be afraid to just share. I'd be at the gym and be kind of timid, or I'd be in a parking lot and be afraid, or what have you. But then it finally just got to a point where I was like, you know what? Jesus died for me. He loves all of us. And he was not afraid to go to the cross. So I won't be afraid to lift up his name.
Pastor Rome grew up in Los Angeles. While he was in middle school, his mom moved him to Bellflower, California, a suburb of Los Angeles. There, he would be the only black person in his class.
Being in Bellflower was tough because I was the only black kid in my class. All of the kids around me to interact with were Asian, they were white, they were Latino. So I was kind of like, wow, this is different, you know. And then I remember bringing all my friends would come home from school with us, and I would notice that all of our friends were white. And I didn't think anything of it. Believe it or not, it felt like that's how it was supposed to be. It felt like it should have been a melting pot altogether. Because I just kind of prescribed to this idea that, or subscribed to this idea that anytime you're in one place where it's only one thing, usually it accompanies a mindset, and I typically don't agree with that mindset.
Right.
I believe in the melting pot idea. I believe in the melting pot theory, and I believe that that's what heaven looks like. So I want to be in environments that mimic heaven, not to be cliche, but it's true.
Right. Pastor Rome discovered quickly how different he was. His peers at the time would make fun of him on how he spoke, saying he was funny talking because he was so articulate. Pastor Rome attributes that to the strong hand of his father. So tell us about your dad.
Well, my father was a little special. His family used to say that about him because he was so brilliant that there was something a little off about him because he was so brilliant.
Okay.
And so growing up in our household with an IQ of 216, having been in the Air Force, a military man, he demanded perfection. So much so that he began to make me feel at a very early age that nothing I did was good enough. And I remember one summer I came home with straight A's. And when I say straight A's, I'm talking about straight A's. And handwriting is not even a grade, but the handwriting that the teacher put needs improvement, which is the equivalent to like a D. He grounded me for an entire summer. 3 whole months. Don't go off of this porch. Stay within this front yard perimeter. Wow. I mean, who uses perimeter with their children? He did. So he would say, don't leave this perimeter. Right. And then he would say, until I tell you to. And then all summer he had me write book reports. So yeah, growing up in my house with a father like that, it was tough. It made it difficult to be yourself. It made it difficult to have any form of identity, for always just being afraid it wasn't going to be good enough for him. So you kind of, you figure by the time you're 19 years old, you're already kind of starting to come into your personality and who you are.
Right.
And I felt like I could not be myself unless he wasn't around.
Growing up, Pastor Rome was known for 4 things: being a counselor, a friend's friend, a preacher, and a comedian. It would be the comedian in him that would reveal a darker secret. Comedians have a story. When I think of Jim Carrey, when I think of...
the greats.
Right. But a lot of them have had a tragic life. And they used comedy as their filter or as their way to get out, as their escape. Do you think you used comedy as your escape?
Oh, man. Absolutely. I haven't thought about this in a long time, but when I was a kid, we lived in Carson. And I remember laughing and playing with my brother and telling him jokes and making my mom laugh and making our friends laugh and just having a good time. And I remember hearing my father's car come down the street and immediately have a panic attack. Immediately be filled with horrific anxiety and be on edge, wondering what his temperament would be like when he showed up, because he was extremely violent, extremely abusive, and comedy seemed to be the thing that took my mind off of all the pain that was in our house. It was a way for me to not have to continue to process my own pain. So comedy for me, even to this day, is still something that I like it because it's healing. It's like a place to retreat. That's a healthy place. It's a good thing. And I just remember my mom always saying, boy, you're so silly, and stop. And I would make her laugh to the point where she couldn't. She would literally be begging me to please stop.
Right.
My brothers too, and we would just have such a good time. And I just remember every time that I would be in one of those modes and I would hear his voice or anything, it would immediately send this fear, this shockwave through my system. And it would just immediately just make me feel like I was being claustrophobic. I would just feel really restricted. And so I just wanted to be able to laugh and have people laugh and not worry about the pain.
This pain would last during Pastor Rome's entire childhood. He would constantly be in a state of uncertainty of when the wrath of his father would come next. I think it's important that people know that even as the pastor and the man of God and the father and the husband, you know, that you come from not just a place of feeling rejected, but they had consequences to it.
One of the most active times where I really began to feel the emotional pain taking a seat was I remember me and my brother were outside. We were playing. We were very young. At this time, we might have been around 9. He was probably about 7. And we were riding our bikes. And as we were coming home down the street, we saw my mom's car hit the corner. When her car hit the corner, immediately I was overwhelmed. Like, I immediately in that moment had another one of those panic attacks. It was funny that now that I'm thinking back on it, I've had those and was experiencing that from such a young age, because it was like I had been in a war zone. You know, it was like PTSD for kids. And I remember, and I remember, like, why was I so upset? Well, right before we had gone outside to play, my dad had gotten upset with my mom about something. And he said, "Where's your mom?" And my brother and I were like, "Well, she's gone to the store." And he was like, "Okay, well, guess what? When your mom gets home, I want you guys to get outside and go play, because I'm gonna kick her butt." And I remember immediately feeling so helpless, feeling like, oh my God, he's gonna do it again. He's gonna hurt her. And then depending on how upset he is, he's gonna come and hurt us, and not really knowing how to protect her. Just feeling like, I mean, when you're a son and your connection to your mom is that strong, and the threat has been made and they're telling you, and there's nothing you can do to stop it, you just feel helpless. Living in that kind of fear it's not normal, it's not healthy, it's not good. Now, even though I made it out of that situation and things seemed like they got a little bit better, things took a more drastic turn as I got older. And I didn't realize that throughout the years that all this stuff was kind of bubbling up still inside of me, because we had never gone to a therapist, we had never spoken to a counselor about anything. Our family was just kind of like, we figured out our way and we get on, which is what I feel most families end up doing. Not realizing that you should talk to somebody, you should get somebody involved, but just that state of feeling like we're all we got, I can't talk to anybody, it makes you feel like you're all you have and you can't talk to anybody. But when things really got climactic for me was when I was 28. That was when things had gone horribly wrong, in my opinion. I'm sitting at my desk and I have this panic attack. And it was the worst one I've ever had in my life. Very quickly, it turned into a generalized anxiety disorder and chronic anxiety, which means it just out of nowhere and anywhere, just having anxiety attacks and panic attacks. Well, those got to be so overwhelming that it started up again. And I started going to bed at night saying, "God, please just, if you're not gonna heal me, then just take me." You know, I was way too afraid to take myself, and I was just like, well, just please, just, because something's wrong with my mind. I don't know who to talk to. I don't know who to tell. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. I can't explain this to anybody. I don't think anybody understands what I'm dealing with. I just started going inward and cutting everything and everyone off. I didn't even tell my mom. Nobody knew that this was going on except for my wife. And I was starting to wonder, like, why is my mind falling apart on me? Why am I breaking all of a sudden? It was getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where I was like, okay, I'm serious. Lord, please just take me in my sleep. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And every day that I would wake up, I'd be like, are you serious? Like, I don't want to live like that. I can't live like this. This is not life. And I hated it so much.
So did it ever turn around for you?
Boy, did it. The turnaround is my favorite part. It's interesting because my turnaround came with a fight. I remember telling my wife, okay, I gotta go to work. I love you. I'll see you later. And I was walking out of the house and I had my gym bag. because that's how I would try to decompress, would just go to the gym and work out. So when I got to the porch of our house, I stood on the porch and I looked up to heaven, and I kid you not, I said, how are you going to heal me? And one of the most powerful times I've ever heard the Lord, I heard the Lord clearly say, read my word. I went back in the house, shuffled through all my stuff, finally found the Bible. I took it to work with me, and I opened it up. I started reading the first verse in Matthew chapter 1, and what was a 9.5 fell to a 5.5. And I immediately wanted to jump up and like scream, but when I stopped reading the word, it came back. So then I got back into the word, and it went away. And then I realized something. I only feel good when I'm in the word. I am one of those stories where I can honestly tell you, my therapy didn't come with a leather couch. It didn't come with a healthy retainer. It didn't come with me needing to pull out a medical card. It literally was the grace of God on my life, that through the reading of the word, he made me new.
There are millions of people that are on medication right now for anxiety, depression, panic attacks. Talk to those people right now and tell them and let them know that not only are they not alone, but that there is an answer.
First things first, tell somebody so that you're not alone. Everybody's struggling, so please tell someone. First things first, tell somebody, tell anybody. Just the very fact of knowing that you're not alone, it helps. The same thing that I would do, as cliche or as strange as this may sound, but me being a Jesus freak, is put a Bible in their hand. One of my favorite verses of all time is Isaiah 26:3, and it says, I will keep him in perfect peace who keeps his mind stayed on thee.
Yes.
So the more I focused on the Lord, the less I could focus on what was ailing me or what was bothering me.
That's right.
Third thing is, don't fight your feelings, accept and process them. When you fight your feelings, there's this struggle going on of if the feelings are right. It's not about that. It's not about judging the feeling. Just have the feelings and process them healthily. And the last thing is pray. God answers prayer. He knows what you're going through. He hears your cries. He sees you at night struggling. He knows exactly what you're going through. Trust him to deliver you out of your Egypt, and he will.
Trust him to deliver you out of your Egypt, and he will. Amen.
Amen.
Hold on, we're breathing as one. Breathe in.
Pastor Rome leads a multicultural church in the city of Bellflower, California, where he shares the Word of God weekly. So Vicky, you've heard that saying, in a perfect world, ... You describe for me, what is a perfect world?
A perfect world is the big house, the white picket fence, the husband, the kids, the car, the dog.
Would you say you've lived in a perfect world?
No.
Okay, why don't you tell us a little bit about your life?
My life started out rough. So I had an alcoholic father who was abusive, mentally, physically. His wife was just as bad. I'm a product of an affair.
You were a product of an affair.
Yes.
So your mother and father, which one was married, or were they both?
My father was married.
Your father was married to someone else.
Yes.
And met your mom.
Right.
Okay, and then they had you.
Yes.
Okay. Were you around both of them growing up?
I lived with my mom.
Okay.
And I didn't really have anything to do with my dad until I was about 4 years old.
Okay.
And then when my dad started coming around and one visitation, so I had court ordered to go with him every other weekend.
And was his wife there?
Yes.
Vicky grew up in a tumultuous environment that seemingly got worse and worse every day.
My stepmom was very abusive, both physically and mentally.
What effect did that have on you for someone to speak to you in that way and you were forced to go and be with them?
It was hurtful. It really takes down your esteem. You really feel like you're not wanted and you're not worthy. You're not enough. And I never could understand, like, why does she hate me so much? I don't understand.
So, and you weren't realizing it was because you were a product of an affair
I didn't know
at that time.
She displayed on a daily when I was there how much she hated me and how much she wished I would just go away.
Vicky's stepmom reached her boiling point, and she did something no one expected.
6 years old, she sold me.
Who sold you?
My stepmom.
So it was your stepmom. Your stepmom sold you.
Yeah.
Explain that.
There was one weekend I went over there. My dad was drunk. He hit me and knocked me out. And the next day when I woke up, my stepmother said, "Get dressed, we're leaving." We went to the store. She met a guy in the store and he handed her $300 and she handed him my hand and she left.
Okay, how old were you at this time?
I was 6.
You were 6 years old.
6 years old.
Did you understand what was going on when an exchange took place? Like you saw the money?
She said today was a great day because she would never have to see me again in her life.
And what were you thinking when she said that? Like where?
I was scared.
Okay.
I just wanted my mom at that point. I didn't know what to do.
So this was with a weekend visit or one of your visits, and during that weekend, she sold you to a stranger?
Yes.
And he was a male? And what happened?
The security guard of the store stepped in when we were leaving the store, and he said, "She doesn't belong to you." And grace of God, he stopped them, called the police. I went home with my grandmother that night, my mom and my grandmother that night, and never had to see my dad again. My mom decided that she didn't want to be around my grandmother. My grandma was a very strong Christian woman. My mom was not in her faith. She didn't want to be around it, so she decided to pack us up and leave. We went to Nevada, and she tried to find a job. She couldn't find one, so she got a tent. We lived in a tent, and she finally found a job in this little town.
So how long did you live in the tent?
A year.
1 year.
1 year.
After living in a tent for a year and not going to school, Vicky lost all hope.
My mom found one of her friends that worked with her, their sons babysat us, and her 2 sons would molest me while my mom worked at night. They used to call me their practice toy for when they would get with their girlfriends.
Your practice toy?
Yeah, it was their practice toy.
And what did your siblings say? Were they around?
They didn't know. It was always when everybody was sleeping.
Okay.
That's when they would come in.
Okay. Okay.
So.
Mom found out eventually?
Mom found out because I told her I want to go home to my grandma. And she said that's not a possibility. And I told her, then I'll just kill myself.
How did you try killing yourself?
I got a knife and cut my arms. And I ended up going home to my grandma after that.
Was she aware of the things that had happened?
Yes. She was a little angry that I tried to commit suicide. She said, no matter what you go through, God is always there. And he'll always take care of you. You never You never chicken out. You stay strong. I went with a friend, a so-called friend, to a party, which I knew all along that it was a bad idea, but I did it anyway.
Right.
And I ended up getting left alone at that party and ended up getting raped at the party. And found out afterwards that I was pregnant. And
Did you keep the child?
yes,
You did keep
I
the
did
child.
keep him, yes. He's 29 years old today, so he's an awesome kid. He's a blessing.
And so what happened after that? Did you ever get into, a real relationship
I
with
did. I met my husband. We were together 13 years total.
You were together for 13 years total. Okay.
Yeah. Up until he passed away.
So what happened?
We were married. We were doing good. I got pregnant with my other son. So I had another little boy, and then I got pregnant again with my daughter. Life was little struggle, but it was good.
After the passing of Vicky's grandmother, things began to really fall apart.
My mom passed, my mother-in-law passed, my grandmother passed, and
All within what time?
they all passed away in 2008, all within 3-4 weeks apart. July of 2010, my brother passed away. And then my husband was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. 6 months later, he passed away. I started to think I wasn't meant to be happy. I wasn't meant to have a good life. I stayed strong through everything. I stood. I held on to my faith the whole time, and then you took my husband. So I was angry for a while. And one day my son came to me. He was 4, and he said, "Why did God take my dad? Why didn't he take somebody else's dad? Why didn't he take a bad dad? My daddy was good." And it made me more angry. I went out to my car and I screamed at the top of my lungs to God, like, "Why did you do this?" And his response was, "I didn't take your rock. The rock is still standing. She just took her eyes off of me."
Yeah.
At that moment, that song Footprints in the Sand came on, and I realized that you got to get back on your faith. It's a trial, and I had the best defense lawyer, but I took my eyes off of him. And we went back to church that Sunday, and we've been back at church ever since. And life is good.
Life is
Life
good.
is good.
So it was during that process of going back to church was when you began to really deal with all of those things?
Yes.
And so what happened?
I went back to church. My kids were happy again. I met an awesome guy at church, and life is just great. I'm engaged to be married.
Look at that smile. Look at that smile.
Yes, I'm at peace. I have my peace.
So we started out in a perfect world. Life would be, you fill in the blank and tell us what life is going to be for your future.
My future is going to be full of blessings because I have God first. I have an awesome man of God that's going to be my future husband. I have my kids. I have the house. I have life. God will take you on the path. He'll get you on the right street. Pull over, let him drive.
I like that. Pull over.
Pull over and let him drive.
Pull over, scoot over, and let him drive.
Dry your eyes, say goodnight. I know you've been trying. asleep, only to keep you from crying. You build it up, it's all too much. Don't you let them justify it, so you hold it in. You'll never win, but will you feel alive? So say goodnight and close your eyes. It's alright to feel, alright to feel alive. So you breathe in and begin to feel alive. So say goodnight and close your eyes. It's alright to feel alive. So say goodnight and close your eyes. It's alright to feel, alright to feel alive.
Remember, God will use what hurt you to help heal you, and the mess that you went through becomes your message of victory to the world around you. I'm Teresa Campbell. Be transformed.